Ladies and gentlemen, today the Money Connection TED Ed television channel presents to you a podcast with our guest, Mr. Ricco Ross. Mr. Ross is an actor, director, and owner of a production company, Something Positive Production Company. Mr. Ross is an active blogger for the Money Connection, and his insightful views on our community through the lens of media production should be well received by you, the audience. Ricco has a master's degree from UCLA and has spent many years studying theater in England. Well, let's give Mr. Ross a warm welcome. And here's our host team, Mr. Ted Harvey and Mr. Edward Bishop, to start our podcasting of Ricco Ross.
Live.
There we are.
There we are.
Good day to everyone. Welcome to Money Connection. And today we're with Ricco Ross, actor, producer, director. Ricco, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good out here enjoying this beautiful California weather, Southern Cali.
Oh, okay, that's great. And also with us will be Ed Bishop. And want to just sort of kind of ask you a few questions. You're one of our bloggers from California. Just wanted to ask you basically, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, besides, I know that you're an actor, producer, and director,
Okay.
but I know you do a lot of other things. Just give us, a few minutes and tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Ricco Ross. That's with two C's. Don't get it twisted. Ricco. And you can Google it, and a lot of stuff will come up. But basically, I'm an actor, and I started a production company a few years ago, understanding that it's become very affordable to make independent projects. And it used to be where it was a lockdown and Hollywood controlled everything. But just like the music industry changed, the film industry is also changing. With that change, opportunity has shown itself. Opportunity for a number of different people who didn't have access before. A number of different voices can be heard. A number of different stories can be told. And all of you out there listening, you understand the power of the media and how it influences. And all of a sudden, it's become something that the masses can actually raise their voice, have an opinion, show a perspective. So what I am focusing on is not just the minority, not just the minority groups. This issue that I guess if we were to talk about it in a larger scale, there are issues that are affecting our company. Today is a very interesting day because this is a couple days after the election, and everybody's talking about politics. We know that we've got our first black president in power now, but before he was in power, there was no less than 6 different projects, movies and television series, where they had a black president. So this kind of gave the society, it kind of warmed their palate for the taste of something like that to happen. So the media does have and entertainment does have a huge effect on our society and our society's opinions. So my projects and my purpose for starting this production company, which is called Something Positive Production, was to actually utilize this. If you've got something and you don't utilize it, then that's on you. And I think there's an opportunity here. And I thought, well, it's on me to take advantage of this. And I was desperately looking for some type of name for my production company. And I wanted it to be something positive, but everything I looked at that was positive and that was clever or witty was already taken. So I decided to go with something positive. And so it's titled Something Positive Production. And I lived in Europe for 13 years. I went over there originally after grad school at UCLA to study Shakespeare. I had worked a year after grad school here in Hollywood, and I was lucky enough to land one big role, which was a regular or a recurring role on Hill Street Blues, which was a big show at the time. It was the last season. I played a gang member in that show, and after that show aired, I couldn't get called in for anything but gang members. Now, granted, that probably had something to do with the time, because a person of my stature, there weren't a lot of parts for anything other than that. But it was very frustrating for someone who had just received a master's degree from UCLA to only be called in for gang members. And I was happy to be working, but at the same time, I thought I had more to offer. So I went to Europe and studied Shakespeare for a year. After I finished the project, the school, it went so fast I decided I wanted to stay there and see if I could perform Shakespeare in front of an English audience and pull it off. I didn't have any working papers, and so I decided, well, why don't I go into these auditions as if I were an Englishman? And so for 4 years, I worked as an Englishman in England, doing Shakespeare and a lot of other English projects, until I was able to get working papers, and then I became an American actor over there. But that experience, living outside of America, gave me a different perspective. When you see your country from the inside out, it looks very different from the outside in. And what I gained when I came back to America, I actually came back, surprisingly, more patriotic than when I left. Because what I then noticed when I came back was I was able to appreciate the potential that we have. I saw our faults, and every country has faults, but I also saw our potential. And I mean, even the idea of having a country that is governed of the people, by the people, for the people, was so outlandish an idea that it was referred to as an experiment in the beginning. Well, it is a great idea, and it is probably one of the reasons why we're admired throughout the world. And when I came back, I had a newfound appreciation, but I also thought I want to do something more than just for myself. So now I've started this production company. I'm producing projects that I think are educational, entertaining, but also inspiring, informative. And we've got a number of projects that we have in pre-production right now, and now just getting fundraising. But it's an exciting time. What else? I'm really happy about this blog that we started. I'm happy about the website and what we're trying to do, because a lot of times in our lives, and especially for people in my profession, we think about ourselves. Everything is from the point of view of ourselves. And what I think this blog is doing, it's looking to try and reach out and help others, inform others, connect others, show opportunities. Sometimes there are a lot of people out there, there are young people out there that really want to do something, and they just don't have the roadmap. And in our country, and especially where I live, we worship youth, and we seem to not have the full appreciation of our elders, of the wisdom that comes with becoming an elder, of the knowledge that's locked into that person. It could be shared. The primary reason we study history in our country is to learn from other people's mistakes and what has happened, their successes. And here we have elders in our country, and we're letting these people die with decades and decades of knowledge that they haven't passed on. And I felt like the reason why I was excited about becoming a part of the Money Connection was that I just thought this is an avenue that is drawn up specifically to address that, to take that knowledge that these people have, I mean, when you think about collectively the people that are involved in this, we have centuries of knowledge here, and to be able to use that knowledge, pass it on, get young people involved, say, listen, this is what you want to do. This is a person that you may be able to help you do that, or here's a roadmap of how to get started, because a lot of times with young people, the most difficult thing is to get started. They have the desire, they have the energy, but they don't have the roadmap, and they feel like, what do I do? And what I felt like you guys were trying to do is you're trying to show them this is how to get it started. Now, we've got it started for you. You take off, do your thing. If you have any questions, come back to us. And I just thought that's something that's very useful today.
Now, with that in mind, and we do appreciate you being involved with the Money Connection and blogging. What would you say your theme would be as far as you actually captivating that younger, or even informing people? What are you trying to say in your blog? What is the point across you're trying to get?
I think my blog is going to vary, maybe more than others. I'm using my blog depending on what's happening here in Hollywood right now, what's happening in the industry right now, and it's always evolving. The first blog I did just happened to be on showing up. It was a blog about how important it is just to show up. Sometimes 50% of success is just showing up. One example I gave in the blog was that Lee Daniels, who is the creator of Empire, which everybody probably is familiar with now, he used to be my manager. They were giving him an award at the WGA, the Writers Guild of America here in Hollywood, and I didn't want to show up. I wanted to stay home and chill, and I didn't want to show up. My wife said, "Listen, let's just go there. You know Lee, he's very successful. You should be there to support him, but you also should be there to be seen." So anyway, we go to we had an invite, and we go there, and it actually turned out to be a beautiful event. They showed things that I didn't realize how much he had an impact on Hollywood and changing Hollywood until I went there and saw the little video clips that they had and shown how because of shows like Empire and Blackish and their success, Murder. That we have another black actress that's the lead in that television series. I can't think of the name of it, Murder something. But because of the success of those shows,
How to Get Away with Murder.
How to Get Away with Murder. There you go.
Of Hollywood and Grey's Anatomy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And we can go on. And the success of these shows has shown Hollywood that concept of that 1950s concept that only telling shows from one group's point of view. Usually the white person's point of view, that isn't the only way. And actually it's showing that in the 21st century, it's not only a bad look, but it's bad business. There was a 5-year study at UCLA that came out and showed that when you have 40% minorities in a project, that the audience tunes in. When you have 10% or less, that they tend to tune out. So now it's showing Hollywood that this is not even good business sense. And Lee Marvin was part of that transition. And anyway, afterwards, they had a big after party, and we're there. And my wife goes up to Lee. She knows him too, and she hugs him. And I was talking with some other producers. And then he asked about me. And so then she told me I should go and say hi to Lee before we left. I go over to say hi to Lee, and first thing he says is he sees me, he goes, "Ricco," and he gives me a big hug and all this. And then he says to his first assistant, who was there as well, he pointed out to him, "We have to get Ricco on the show. We must get Ricco on the show." Now, that whole little incident happened because I showed up. And that's what I was trying to say in that blog, is that sometimes just showing up, you never know what's going to happen, but you have to show up to find out. Now we've got a conversation, me and the production company that does Empire, of getting me on the show, getting me on the right show. And I put it to them. I says, if you're going to have me on the show, have me on the show with a character that can show what I do, so that I'm not just wasted. Because if I establish one character, that'll be the character. If that character is only on there for one episode, that's that. And I don't mind that, but I just want a character that's if you're gonna have me on there, let me do my thing, and that's what I was saying basically. So we have that dialogue now, but that dialogue started because I showed up.
Right.
So every different blog, I'm looking for things. There are always something happening here in Hollywood, but I'm looking for things that I think are going to be interesting, but that I think are going to be inspiring to the reader and hopefully informative for them. Because, a lot of what happens in Hollywood is very reflective of our society. And I think that we can actually use that as a tool to make things better.
Well, you have a vast amount of experience in the field. acting overseas, acting here in the United States, but also producing, directing, and that type of thing. And I know that you have to really. What would be one of the things that you would say that you concentrate on, that really that you love? You know, is it acting? Is it directing? Is it producing? What do you really love?
I mean, that's a good question. I think ultimately I love. I think it's probably going to have to be acting. I find that directing is a lot of work. I mean, it's like it's a lot of pressure. You're wearing a lot of hats. Time. You're worried about time. You're worried about money. It really is. It's almost like being a businessman. When you're an actor, you have a certain luxury. You walk in there, you read the script a couple times. When I read a script, the first time I read a script that I'm going to do, I just read it for the story. The second time I read the script, I read it from my character's point of view. When I walk on set, I feel like I know my character better than the writer knows my character, because I've focused on that character primarily. And I've made some decisions of that character before the story starts, so that I have subtext. When I say something, this character has a foundation. So I am so comfortable with playing, being an actor, that I would say that's probably my biggest passion is just being that person in front of the camera, taking the words off of the page, making them real, and presenting them in a way that that people believe this is happening right there. I mean, it's funny because when you're on a set, I don't care how intimate it is, there's always a bunch of people around you. But yet you, as an artist, you have to make that feel very intimate. And I've done scenes where there's been, very intimate scenes, making love and what have you. And it seems so intimate, but really there's always a bunch of people around. And that's part of the art, is to create that intimacy, even though it's not an intimate environment.
Now, Ricco, I have a question here. I've noticed, and I don't know if the audience has noticed it, but we're seeing a lot of female actors who have become very successful in the acting field. Do you happen to have a viewpoint as to why that is happening, and why the black male actors are not getting as many roles as the female actors are?
I definitely have an opinion. I definitely have an opinion, but it is just that. It's just an opinion. I'm also a member of the Screen Actors, the SAG-AFTRA board. So I have insider information about what's going on. But I would say that in our society, it is more palatable to have a female black actress than it is for a black male. And especially my type, because I often get cast as an alpha or as a romantic lead. And that's still uncomfortable for a lot of Americans, in middle America. That's still an uncomfortable thing. I remember I was on the dating game decades ago, and I'm the guy, and they were going to have 3 girls who I was going to choose to go on a date. And I remember that it was just so obvious that they were segregating everything. And so, of course, my 3 dates would be all black women. And I said, why are we still segregating like this in our society? And they're saying, well, because it's fine in LA and in New York and in Chicago, but middle America aren't ready for it. And I remember thinking at that time that by appeasing them, these narrow-minded people, are we at the same time perpetuating the same concept? And my job is trying to, and what I hope to do with my production is to break through some ceilings, break through some barriers. Right now, I think people, because of the success of having a black president, I can now be called in any day of the week to play, on the same day, to play a pimp or to play the president, and anything in between. And that's progress for me. And so I think that to answer your question, I think it is a little more palatable to have minority women there because they are still not the alpha always. And especially someone like me, I'm 6'3", I'm black, I'm well-spoken, I have an opinion, and I value my opinion as much as anyone else, if not more. And so, that may be a threat to some people, and they may shy away from offering me that job. But we're at a state now where I don't have to wait for Hollywood. Mm-hmm. I can do projects, create projects myself, and if they're successful, then Hollywood can come and talk to me. Mm-hmm. I did a commercial earlier this year, and there were we did a series of 3 commercials, and it was for Lincoln, and it was with Matthew McConaughey. And I remember that when I walked in on the audition, they gave me this monologue. This is for a commercial, and they gave me a monologue. And I know Matthew McConaughey had just won the Oscar the year before as Best Actor, and I know he's the man for the Lincoln campaign, but yet they're giving me this monologue. I'm thinking, well, why are they giving me this monologue? I'm sure it's for him. But if you're going to give it to me to audition, then I'm going to make it mine. So I made some decisions before I walked in the room. I walked in there. I did this monologue. I walked out. I knew they were feeling it. Before I can get home, I got a call from my agent saying that I had booked the job. So we are on the set, and we've been shooting for a couple of days. And at one point, the client from Lincoln comes up to me, and he says, I just wanted to tell you something. He says, your audition was amazing. And he says, when we originally came up with this concept of this high-powered, high-stakes poker game that Matthew McConaughey's character was going to walk into, we imagined him to be Russian or English. He says, but you walked in there and you did your thing, and we instantly contacted the writers and said, that's the guy. Make it fit. Now, the reason I tell you this story is a lot of time as an African-American actor, I don't know if they had an African-American character in mind or not. I just go in there and do my job. But this was interesting because he came to me and told me, no, we actually were looking for a Russian character, but we thought, we looked at your resume, you look like you could possibly pull it off, and I was allowed to enter the door. I got into the room, and once I got into the room, I did my thing, and this was the results of it. So my whole thing in Hollywood now is just let people in the room. I'm not saying you got to cast them, but let them in the room, give them a shot, and may the best man win.
Hey, I want to ask you 2 more questions. One is, what other projects do you have coming up? Mm-hmm. And the last one is, what do you think, or what do you see as our main problem in our community, and what would you do to solve it? Okay,
I'll answer the second question first, and the first question second. Right. What I see in our community is there are a number of things. A lot of them are not our community's fault, and I would say most of them are not our community's fault. However, just because it's not your fault, if there's a problem there, that doesn't mean that you can't address it, and that means that you can't do something about it. It may not be your fault that you found yourself in this mess, but you don't have to sit in the mess. You got to figure out a way to get out of it. So I think our fault in our community is largely due to our history in America. We're so used to our history. We're so used to things that are unfair and unequal that we accept it as norm. And it is the norm. But because something is normal doesn't mean that it's right. And so we have to wake up and understand these things that we've grown accustomed to are not right. And how can we then just make a change? We can't just sit around and complain about it. And that's what a lot of people do, is a lot of people will complain, but they don't come up with solutions. So this whole blog is part of the solution. Information is so important, and it doesn't cost you anything. But information will be the key to unlock a lot of doors. So I think, we have issues in our society that compound the problems in our community. But I also think as a community, there are things that we can do. one of the things that we can do is we can start not fighting each other and not blaming each other, but actually start working together. People that work together, I noticed this. I live in West Hollywood. In West Hollywood, it's a big Jewish community also. And I know it's a Jewish culture. They work together. They assist each other. They connect each other with different business partners. When they talk about business. A lot of times when I'm with my black friends, we talk about sports. We talk about women. We don't talk that much about business. And I notice when I'm with my Jewish friends, we'll talk about sports. We'll talk about sports and women, but we'll also talk about business. And I think that's something that we have to start talking about more. And I also would say to our community in particular, is that we have to stop thinking small. We have to start thinking big. We have to start dreaming big. And that's how you actually make things happen. We are used to being small-minded because the doors our limitations were always there. But things have changed, and maybe we have to make that change also, adjust to that change. That we have the internet, we have rights, we have integration, we have friends that are outside of our group, our ethnic group, that have information, have contacts, and that we can share our ideas or partner up with. So I think we have to have a mindset change as well. Your last question, I would say, I have a project coming out on December 10th on Ion TV. It's called A Husband for Christmas, and it is I play the husband. Vivica Fox plays my wife, and strangely enough, Vivica and I played husband and wife on we played lovers in a movie earlier this year called Fat Camp. So it's just coincidental that we would play partners twice in 1 year. The interesting thing about this project was not written for black people necessarily. It was written, and the director, who was a white director, read the script, loved the script, brought the script to Vivica. Vivica loved the script. She became one of the producers, and then they later contacted me to play the husband. So when you see the movie, when the movie comes out on December 10th, A Husband for Christmas, it even though the two leads in the movie are black, there also are other stars in the movie. Eric Roberts is in the movie, and Jackie is in the movie, a comedian turned actress, and she's very funny in the movie as well. The script is beautiful. It's a nice family movie, and I think it's going to be one of those movies that we'll be seeing around Christmas time for years to come, because I think that they did a pretty good job with it, and I think it'll be appealing to a lot of people.
Super. Hey, look here. We want to thank you very much for being on the team of the Money Connection, and also joining us on our podcast as well. And we look forward to more of your blogs. And of course, you never know, in the future, we might call on you to, when something is really hot in Hollywood, we can have another podcast and get your thinking on that as well.
Love to. And also, maybe we can do some podcasts from the set, just so that people who might be interested in this industry can see how it is behind the camera.
Sounds like a great idea.
Super. All right. Well, we'd like to thank our audience for actually joining us, and till next time, thank you very much for joining Money Connection TV.
All right.
Hey, thanks, Ricco.
Peace out.
All right.
Bye-bye.